Okay, very good.
Okay,
Let
so
me
the meeting is
reconfirm that
being
you're the
recorded
host.
now, and I am the host, and hold
Do
on,
you want anyone to be the co-host or?
not at the moment, unless you would like to make Ramdot a co-host.
I think that would be good so that, you both can help each other.
Thank you. Okay,
Let me do that now.
so Ramdot, what we'll be doing is making others host when they have a screen to share.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
We made this pre-sharing.
All right, Ramdot,
Okay.
you are the co-host.
And this way we can let each other's attendees in. So there's more than one. I am just going to
Ramdot, can you confirm that you're the co-host? You see it on your
Yes.
screen?
Yes, Pablo, I'm able to be co-host. Thank you.
Okay, good. So you see it. Robert, I'm making you host again.
Okay.
Okay.
I see a host and co-host.
Okay, you guys, so you and
Random.
Ramdot are all set. Your recording is on. Very good. And okay, like they say in the show business, lights, camera, action.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
All right,
Thank
you all have a
Pablo.
good meeting. Okay, good evening.
We will. Thank you,
You
Pablo.
too, Pablo.
Bye. Bye, Laura.
Thank you, Pablo.
Bye.
So, are we going to be able to share? It looks like
You are, yeah. I just gave instructions for you to be able to share, so that you didn't have to all send me emails, okay? And only share if you are a presenter on the agenda. Thank you very much this evening. And we'll start in a few minutes. We're about 2 minutes early. It would be a great help if committee members of the Environment and Sanitation Committee and Parks and Recreation Committee already raised their hands so we can take care when we're ready to begin the first item. So if you are a member of either committee, please raise your hand so we'll be able to identify quorum.
Hey guys.
And I have to say hello to an old friend, Mr. Robert Barron. It is great to see you again. It's been a very long time, and I'm really glad you found this meeting. Thank you. It's good to see you. Okay, great.
Excuse me, Mr. Fanuzzi.
Yeah.
My name's Debbie Peters. I'm a shareholder at Skyview. And Pablo, there's several other people that are here. Pablo suggested that we just ask you at the beginning of the meeting if, because we've been trying for several years actually to get some help with the smells that come from the wastewater treatment plant in Yonkers. Is it possible that we could have a presentation to you folks or get some opportunity to do that tonight?
We're going to discuss that under new business. Actually, because we have had this discussion on our agenda 3 times, this will actually be under old business, okay? So Ms. Peters, feel free to raise this issue at that point.
Okay, I think it'll be coming from someone else in our group. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, always welcome to raise an issue. Okay, so there are several people that we will need to introduce, and we will start very soon. Ramdot, whenever you are ready, I think it's nice to start on time. If you have a quorum, I believe I do.
I believe Parks also has a quorum.
Excellent. Then Ramdot Singh and my name is Robert Fanuzzi, would like to welcome you to the December 15th joint meeting of the Environment and Sanitation, and Parks and Recreation Committee. So we have just 2 pieces of business to do for each committee before we move on to the event of the evening. And the first thing I would like to do is recognize the quorum. Deb Travis, Courtney Dastis, and Rob Spalter are, and Karen Argenti are here as members of the Environment and Sanitation Committee. Okay. And have I missed any members of the Environment and Sanitation Committee and recognizing? Okay, Ramdat?
Hey, hey everyone. Good evening. My name is Ramdat Singh. I am the chair of the Parks and Recreation Committee. And I have Deb Travis, Courtney, Bob Bender, Rob, and David down as part of the Parks and Rec Committee. Did I miss anyone? Perfect. So we do have a quorum, Rob. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Ramdat and I are going to get into a very nice groove, I can tell. So now we'll proceed to approval of the minutes of the Environment and Sanitation Committee meeting of November 17th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes from our last meeting?
I move to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Okay, second.
Seconded.
Great. All those in favor of approving November's meeting minutes? I vote favor. Thank you very much. We're done here.
So our last Parks and Recreation meeting was on October 27th. Are there any motions on the floor for the minutes of the Parks and Rec Committee minutes?
I motion to approve.
I second.
Thanks. Perfect. All in favor? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't see any abstentions. Thank you so much.
Okay, excellent. So we have now reached the point of the meeting where we're here to talk about the reason that brings us together this wonderful December evening. And the construction of the greenway along the Putnam Trail extension of Van Cortlandt Park and the daylighting of Tibbetts Brook are 2 of the most capital intensive and long-ranging plans that this community board has been engaged with and that will eventually come to this district. So it's a very auspicious project. It's potentially game-changing in so many areas. And I first want to recognize and thank everyone who is here, including Borough Commissioner Rodriguez and Ms. Ellis from DEP, who is Director of Community Relations, as well as our presenters that you've seen on the agenda today. This really does speak to the magnitude of this issue. Like I said last night, this committee in our district is host to issues on a global scale, planetary scale, that is climate change. But we also deal with issues on a kind of glacial time frame. And I am not going to explain what daylighting in the greenway is. I'm going to leave that to our presenters. But it is worth hearing for the public to know just how deeply and how long this community board has been engaged with these twin issues. So 1993, I'd like to recognize also Dart Westfall as a member of the original Bronx Greenway Committee that charted out a plan for an entire Bronx Greenway plan that included the Putnam Trail. And that was chaired by none other than Diane Sargent of Community Board 8. An incredible long-standing commitment, 1993. This community board then enshrined the Greenway in its 2003 197A plan. When it came time to demap the street, this community board did so through a ULURP action in 2010, approved by the City Planning Commission 2011. So we are really now subtracting from where we are on now a 10-year time frame, back to 2010. Now, you're going to find out about how this issue has engaged Department of Environmental Protection, and how it has become part of the city's plan to manage its combined sewer overflow and water quality. So this community board joined the Daylighting Coalition that was co-created by Bronx Council of Environmental Quality and then Friends of Van Cortlandt Park and now Van Cortlandt Park Alliance 2016. In 2017, this community board got a little tired of waiting for acquisition of CSX. We passed a resolution. And then in 2018, we passed a resolution supporting DEP's embrace of daylighting for its long-term control plan. So that has brought us really to the point where we are due for a joint committee, and we are due for kind of an update. And there are so many people here to recognize. Linda Cox, who have worked so diligently on Greenway issues, and I'm just staring at my screen. I cannot let the moment pass without asking for comment from Eric Dinowitz, our councilman. Eric, would you like to take the floor for 1 second?
Sure. I know you're talking about daylighting of Tibbetts Brook. That's a huge priority of mine. I know there's an incredible amount of work you did on that. I don't want to speak about that just to say that it was one of the first things that I brought up with the mayor when I first got into office. That aside, we just had a city council stated meeting. That's where we vote on all the new laws. And I just want to share 2 new bills that passed, which I think this committee will be excited about. One is a law. It's 271, very exciting number. But what it says is after a certain time, I'll share 3 bills, that over the next couple of years, city buildings have to install sensors so that at night, lights automatically turn off. It's a very simple legislation. We're going to be turning off lights. I'm going in order of how exciting this is for the environment. All right, that's one. The second bill that I've sponsored as well, it increases the requirement for parking lots to have electric charging stations. So it increases from 20 to 40%. 40% of the spots have to be wired for electric charging, starting very soon. And then over the course of a few years, the charging stations have to actually be installed in, and especially new parking lots. And the reason this is important, and I've said this throughout the campaign, and it is still true, that we have to switch away from gas. But people right now, it's very difficult to make the choice to switch to electric cars, given that we don't have the infrastructure. So this bill pushes us toward having that infrastructure. And speaking of gas, the last bill, this is a huge bill. It's a hashtag Gas Free New York. This bill says new buildings that go up, with exceptions of like kitchens and commercial places, but new buildings that go up will not have gas connections. They have to be all electric. And buildings emit a significant amount of our carbon profile. So moving forward, we between the electric cars, between turning our lights up, between new buildings being gas free, we are really moving towards a greener New York. So that was a very exciting day for the environment and the council today. And that is what I wanted to share with you all.
Great. Councilmember, congratulations. We're glad you're fighting for the environment, and we're very glad that a former member of our community board is making us proud. So thanks very much for that great news.
Thank you.
We also really are very grateful for your championing of daylighting and greenway construction. I'd also like to recognize Chauncey Young, who is with us as the coordinator of the Harlem River Working Group, which has been developing greenway plans and access advocacy to the waterfront since what? The only 2006?
Bob, I think David Gelman's hand is up.
I am not finished yet.
Okay.
So thanks, Deb. Are there any other visitors? So with that, I would like to, David, was it
Yeah, well, it's related to environment and Eric's comments.
I'd like to, that was a courtesy. David, can you put that in an email? I make sure that the councilman will get
Never
that
mind.
because our presenters are here. Thanks, David. I appreciate it. So first, I'd like to recognize the real outpouring of cooperation from both agencies that have brought so many people from city government to our community board meeting. And we're very grateful for all the appearance and the effort that it took to get here. There are at least 8 people here who work for a living for the city of New York, and they're spending their evening with Community Board 8. So we really appreciate it. They're very mindful of the time that it's taken you. So I would like to introduce to you the team from DEP who will be presenting. First, Karen Ellis is here as Director of Community Relations. Karen, if you can just identify yourself, and thank you for coming.
Good evening, everyone.
Thanks. FER DeZoni is a committee liaison and a friend of this district and a constant attendee at our committee meetings. Effie, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Bob.
And we have with us to present on daylighting Tolga Yilmaz and Assistant Commissioner Pinar Belsi, who have really been the presenters for and the planners for this issue. Now, Tolga and Pinar, I would like to ask you to share the screen and just first tell me if that's possible.
Yeah, let me give it a try. I'm getting an error message saying host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, we made that. Okay, I may have to make you Tolga. I'm going to try to make you host. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Now
Okay, it looks like I have to designate a person as host, and Ramdat will do the same. Ramdat, you're still co-host now. Tolga, you're the host.
Okay. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Thanks.
Yeah, Togo, we can see it.
Wow, not a minute too.
Yes. All right, let's get started. Tidbits. As Bob mentioned, thank you so much, Bob. My name is Tolga Yilmaz. I am with the DEP Bureau of Environmental Planning and Assessment. I am the project manager for this very exciting Tidbits daylighting project. Pinar, I believe, wanted to join, but she's not here tonight. Really wanted to be here, but couldn't attend due to a personal matter. So this is really a joint project.
Okay, excellent.
Okay. So really a joint project between DEP and Parks, and we have so many park representatives who will be presenting some of these slides. So maybe I'll let them introduce themselves as well, and then we'll get started.
So just quickly, I just want to shout out all the amazing Parks employees that are here to present as well. We have Stephanie from Parks and Van Cortlandt Park. We have Merritt Larson and also Jennifer from Parks as well. Thank you all so much for attending and being part of this.
Ramdat, I would also like to make note of the fact that we have the Bronx Parks Commissioner here tonight, Iris Rodriguez Rosa. And for those who don't know, Jennifer is a Deputy Commissioner of the Parks Department in charge of forestry, horticulture, and a whole bunch of other things I can't even recall. Merritt is the Chief of the Natural Resources Group. And as you mentioned, Stephanie is the Administrator of Van Cortlandt Park. So the Parks Department is here in force tonight, and I'm very grateful to see them here. And thank you for mentioning them, Ramdat.
No, thank you, Bob, so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Tolga, go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so here's our agenda. We will go over the project backgrounds, provide an overview, the sections of the daylighting pieces, the tentative schedule, and the project milestones. And Bob, how do you want to handle the questions? Should folks hold off until the end, or do we
Well,
want?
since it's combined, I think you should finish.
Okay.
And then we're gonna call on people. And you will have tons of questions, so please make notes and we'll go through that procedure for asking questions. That's a good question, though. Please go through.
All right, so background history. So here is the historic route of Tibbets back in 1891, right? As you can see here, the Tibbets Brook split into two streams, I believe at what is today West 237th Street, and this was before it was diverted underground. So one branch went follow along the Tibbet Avenue, and the other branch follow along the CSX right-of-way and the Metro North right-of-way here. And since the early 1900s, Tibbets Brook has been diverted from Van Cortlandt Lake to a combined sewer, roadway sewer. And as you see here in this picture, this is the where the water enters the sewer system, city sewer system. The water then flows to the Wards Island treatment plant and get treated. During wet weather, during heavy rainstorms, overflow from the Broadway sewer discharges to the Harlem River. And this happens at outfall on West 192nd Street. So what that means is rainwater mixed with sewage discharges to Harlem River during heavy rainstorms. And we call these events CSO discharges, or combined sewer overflows. The Broadway sewer is a large CSO, combined sewer overflow discharge, one of the largest points in New York City. And as Bob mentioned, the proposals to daylight Tibbets Brook have existed since the 1990s. So what is daylighting? Let me go through a slide explaining and help you visualize what a daylighting looks like. So daylighting means bringing a stream above ground. This is a great example from Sawmill River in Yonkers. As you see on the left, Sawmill River was diverted underground almost the same time when the Tibbets was put underground, about 100 years ago. And this was covered by a parking lot, as you see on the left. And then on the second picture on the right, this section of the Sawmill River was daylighted, so brought back above ground in 2011. You can see the clock tower in the background here and right here. So hopefully this helps visualize what a daylighting looks like. Okay. So as I mentioned, the proposals have been out there since 1990s. As DEP and Parks, we are fully behind this daylighting effort, and we are working very hard to make this a reality. So why do we want to daylight Tibbets Brook? Okay, so what are some of the benefits? First of all, currently the clean lake water, the Van Cortlandt Lake water, enters city's sewer system for no reason, right? So by diverting this clean lake water away from city's sewer system, we would be increasing local capacity of sewer and wastewater infrastructure. That's number one. Secondly, as I mentioned, during wet weather, during heavy rainstorms, combined sewers receive higher than normal flows, and treatment plants are unable to handle flows that are more than double the design capacity. But when this occurs, a mix of stormwater and untreated sewage discharges directly to the city's waterways, CSO, right? With Tibbets daylighting, we will be reducing the CSO discharge. And based on our current calculations, we are looking at around 220 million gallons annually. So this corresponds to about 25% of the current CSO discharge volume at the existing Harlem River outfall. The next benefit is the clean lake water will not be entering city sewer system and will not get treated at the wastewater treatment plant. So because of that, there will be some energy savings and also greenhouse gas emission savings. As I mentioned, our plan is to divert the entire current dry weather flow, which corresponds to about 4.6 million gallons annually. And then also about 90 to 95% of the wet weather, heavy rainstorm flow. So for the typical year, the modeling predicts about 2.1 gallons out of the 2.2 that currently exist that goes through the Broadway sewer. And then last but not least, I will turn it over to Merritt, who will talk about some of the benefits of Greenway that is also going to be part of this project. Merritt?
Thanks, Tolga. So in brief, there are really three perhaps main ways in which this project is really a great opportunity for parks. One, it kind of forces us to address some trail access and path issues that are challenging, that are less than ideal now. So it forces us, essentially enables us to address issues that will result in the safer and more usable trails around the south end of the park. It'll address, help us extend the Greenway, which connects now north through the park, and it'll allow us to connect south. And then the component that we're particularly excited about in our division, Forestry, Horticulture, and Natural Resources, is the opportunity to restore a section of stream and the riparian habitat associated with that. It's a project that's adjacent to what we call the Tibbetts wetland that we've been looking at for a long time. And although it's not focused on that wetland, it provides a connection and opportunity for us to really integrate some restoration objectives. And altogether, that amounts to a tremendous kind of attention to and rejuvenation of the south end of the park there, which Stephanie Ehrlich can speak to much more eloquently than I. Thanks, Tolga.
Okay, thank you, Meredith. And I just want to highlight, this is going to be the first major daylighting effort for the City of New York. So we are very excited. Okay, on to the next slide. Project overview. So there are two parts to the Tibbetts daylighting project. At the very top, as you see, Van Cortlandt Lake. We are going to be doing some lake improvements and restoration. And then overall, the construction, the Tibbetts daylighting construction. And we will go over these in the next few slides. But I just want to quickly go over what this picture shows you. As you see the Van Cortlandt Lake here, this is where the existing weir is. I know it's hard to see, and as I mentioned, we'll go over in detail in the next few slides, but real quick. So this is where the lake water enters the current sewer systems, and then it goes through this yellowish line and then enters the Broadway sewer. The Broadway sewer follows the Broadway, and then comes down here and then goes to the Wards Island treatment plant. And as I mentioned, during heavy rainfall events, the CSO discharges happen at this point. This outfall is called WI 056 CSO outfall. And it's around the West 192nd Street. So our plan with the daylighting is we are going to construct a new side weir that will take the flow, the lake water, into this new side weir, and then daylight within Van Cortlandt Park, take the water along the CSX right of way and go through Metro North, right of way and then connect back to this existing outfall just downstream of the regulator and then discharge directly to Harlem River. So the existing system on the left, the new daylighting channel on the towards the right or in the middle, as you see the blue and the orangish color. But let's go over it in detail. Okay, so the first part I want to quickly mention is the Van Cortlandt Lake improvements and the retrofit we're going to be performing. We will perform ecological improvements, which includes targeted invasive removals and wetland replanting along mainly the eastern edge of the lake. We are going to be constructing a new side weir. As I mentioned, this will divert lakes base flow and wet weather flow, so heavy rainstorm flow, into the daylighted channel. And then this will keep the water from entering the current Broadway sewer and unnecessarily getting treated at. We are also going to retrofit the existing weir. We are going to install a notched weir plate, which will essentially enhance the storage capacity of the lake during rainfall events. We are also planning to rehabilitate the existing valve, which will allow drawdown of the lake ahead of a large storm. And as you all know, this need became very clear after Hurricane Ida and its impacts by Cortlandt Park and the major Dayton Expressway. Okay, so this is here's a beautiful and colorful depiction of the new side weir that will be constructed right here. So as you see the openings here, so this will take the water into the open daylighted section through the Van Cortlandt Park and also through the CSX. And in the background, I don't know if you can see it, but here's the notched weir plate, as I mentioned, that will help with the storage, lake storage. And as you see here, there will be some shoreline stabilization that will also be performing, which will also help improve maintenance access to both weirs. Okay, so moving on to the daylighting. I'll do a quick introduction on this slide and then turn it over back to Merritt again, who will speak more on the Greenway piece. And Bob and Karen are here. When we met back in June, I believe, with Community Board 8 and Bronx Council for Environmental Quality members, our original plan was to put the water, the daylighted water into a pipe within Van Cortlandt Park from the side weir, and then follow the current pathway, go through the parking lot, and then daylight somewhere along here, which is about 500 feet or so north of Van Cortlandt Park South. So the original concept was on the left. We heard your concerns, your preference, so we did discuss internally, we did discuss with parks, and we did secure additional funding. So now, as you see on the right, the daylighting within Van Cortlandt Park extends all the way to the side weir. So the original concept, dark blue, the extended daylighting, light blue. So the total length of daylighting within Van Cortlandt Park is now around 1,600 feet. So it's about 0.3 miles compared to the 500 feet of the original concept. And then just FYI, the CSX section is around 4,000 feet, so 0.75 miles.
Olga, could you just orient us a little bit north-south on the map on the right, please?
Oh, sure. I think north is maybe following the Greenway, Stephanie.
North is at the top?
Yeah, north is
Cortland
at the
Lake?
top.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. So Van Cortlandt Lake right here,
Weir, okay.
Major Deegan Expressway right here, Van Cortlandt Park South, and then
Good,
the
okay.
the golf course parking lot right here.
Okay, great, thank you. An
Gotcha.
open
Tolga, there-
channel then, open channel from the Weir
From the side weir
to the
all the
boundary
way
of the park.
to the boundary of the park, and it will continue to the CSX.
Right, okay, thank you.
Stephanie, sorry.
I'm sorry, Tolga, your audio cut out a little bit while you were
Oh.
talking about the length within the park. So how many feet was that?
Sorry. So the total length of daylighting within Van Cortlandt Park is now around 1,600 feet. So it's about 0.3 miles. And then the CSX section is around 4,000 feet, which is 0.75 miles. Perfect. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Merit so she can talk a little bit more about the existing greenway, the extension, and all that. Merit?
Thanks. I can speak to here a little bit. You might have a next slide. Is that maybe what I should focus
Yes,
on?
sure.
Great. So this is a different orientation of that section within the park. So north is to your right and south headed towards the Harlem River is on the left. And this is just a schematic, so it's shouldn't be considered a final design by any means, but it was helping to get us a little more oriented towards the design objectives and articulating them. So in blue, what we just talked about is the daylighted stream section that some 1,400, nearly a third of a mile through the park. So on the left, again, the weir and the redesigned weir along the shoreline that Tolga showed a schematic of earlier. It'll be a very flat channel, and the low flow is about 7 CFS. So I think I got that right. So at low flow, it would be something that maybe a very strong jumper could jump over, but it's not something that but it's not essentially passable. So we need a bridge and to readjust our circulation of the current paths. So the yellow indicates the new pathways, both the extension of the Putnam Greenway to the south, and also in yellow going perpendicular indicates the potential location of a pedestrian bridge. So that's providing the circulation that's needed to address the current Empire State Trail that goes underneath the bridge. So these are all new circulation ideas that we have to work on. Our Greenway, we'll be working really closely with Stephanie and the park and her team and our capital designers and Greenway designers and planners at parks. I don't know if Mitchell Loring is here, and with Tolga, of course, and the consultant design team that DEP is retaining that we're working with. And the light green indicates what I mentioned earlier. Essentially, for us, the riparian habitat. This is an area that is currently wooded, and there'll be tree impacts as a result of this new stream corridor. And this will be the area that will also be then replanting and restoring canopy cover in and trees and creating the woodland streamside habitat. Oh, I think I'll just leave it at that for now.
Thank you. And as Merit mentioned, the dark blue color, as you see, is the dry weather flow, which is about 7 CFS. And then the lighter blue is the wet weather, the heavy rainstorms, and it goes up to 38 CFS of flow. And then I think, to give you an idea, the width of the light blue, as you see here, is about 25 to 30 feet.
CFS, cubic feet per second?
Correct.
Right. And Tolga, I guess I'll also mention, so we just highlighted the new pathways, but there is an existing short boardwalk section in the park to the north, and we anticipate that there'll be additional new connections of boardwalk to kind of tie in the existing wetland area to the new stream corridor, and that's to us particularly kind of exciting because it'll give people a chance to see this new habitat feature from a number of different positions. Really, there's going to be the Greenway corridor, a pedestrian bridge over it, and then boardwalk at that edge between the new stream corridor and the existing wetland. At least in schematic, but those are the main elements we think will be there.
Great. And as you see here on the very left, very south, close to Van Cortlandt Park South, there will be a second bridge crossing the daylighted channel. And the idea is we have to be on the west side. The Greenway has to be on the west side within the CSX property to give us some space, distance between Major Deegan and the pedestrians and the bicyclists. And then I think we are looking into potentially adding a stairway to connect this pathway to the Greenway here on this location, but we're looking into that. Okay. Next
Now,
slide.
Tolga, are you going to leave the park in your next slide? Okay. So is this planned for south of the park or within the park is what we're looking at?
So this includes the overall project. So
okay,
includes
keep going.
the, yep. So we discussed the Van Cortlandt Park, as you see here. The Greenway is on the wrong side here, but you get the idea, right? So there's a pathway here, there's a lake. We are building that side weir, and then discharging, well, the flow will continue within Van Cortlandt Park, and then we will continue, the daylighting will continue through the CSX property. So as discussed, this is the Van Cortlandt Park side. This is the CSX, which starts from Van Cortlandt Park South all the way to West 230th.
Okay.
And the CSX portion, let me see. So similar to what we showed you, this schematic, we are working on a detailed schematic plan for the CSX portion, and we'll be presenting and discussing that with Parks this Friday, actually. And then we'll get their feedback, their comments, update our schematics, and then take it to the next stage. And I just also want to point out that we are coordinating closely with Mary Miss and City as Living Lab on incorporating some of their artistic and creative ideas into the daylighting project. Merit, anything else you would like to add on the Greenway within CSX?
No, I think it's early days and we'll have chances to speak in great detail in the future about that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Understood.
So CSX acquisition, I have to mention where we are. As most of you already know, we are going through the acquisition process with the CSX for their property, as I just mentioned, from Van Cortlandt Park South to West 230th, that corridor. Discussions are ongoing, City Law, DCAS, Parks, DEP, we have all been coordinating closely and reviewing a purchase and sale agreement, so PSA. So we hope to have that agreement signed very soon. And once that agreement is signed, that will essentially initiate the next steps to get to the closing process. So hopefully good news will come out very soon. Okay. So after the CSX section, so just south of the CSX is the Metro Node, as you see here. And when you get to the Metro North section, which is south of West 230th, the railroad tracks and trains, you'll be able to see those, right? Because they are actively using those tracks. And because of that, we cannot continue the daylighting. We cannot continue the greenway, we cannot continue daylighting. So we have to put the water into a pipe. There will not be public access. The water will be piped, and that will continue throughout Metro North. And then we will connect to our existing outfall to Harlem River, as I mentioned before. In the next slide, I believe, yeah. So this is a picture of Metro North section. I believe this is somewhere between West 230th and West 225th. You see the railroad tracks, you see the trains, and this gives you an idea how the pipe, the rendering of the pipe would look like. We will stay between the railroad tracks and the major Deegan Expressway in between. There are certain requirements that Metro North asks us to do, like the minimum distance we have to be from the railroad tie-ins and all that. But we are currently reviewing this, and we recently completed a topo survey. So once that's finalized, we will see if we can expand and make a bigger, larger pipe, and possibly increase our flow, but that's something we are currently reviewing. And depending on the slope, based on our current slope from the lake to all the way to the outfall and the topography, we will most likely be above ground. This pipe will most likely be exposed, and you will be able to see some of it. Some of it will be underground, but come West 225th and south, the pipe will be totally underground. We are coordinating very closely with MTA and Metro North on the easement. So this pipe will need an easement agreement. We are discussing that with MTA. We have met several times this year. As I mentioned, the next steps are once the topographic survey is complete, we'll put together a similar schematic design showing our alignment, the pipe alignment. We'll put together a project description, like a package for MTA to review, and then get approval, board approval and all that, and then continue to advance the easement agreement. Okay, cost. So not including the acquisition cost, we estimate the daylighting cost to be approximately 97 million, with additional 36 million for parks, for a total of 133 million. The DEP portion is the construction management of the entire daylighting project. As I mentioned, the lake improvements, the new weir, the daylighting within Van Cortlandt Park, daylighting within CSX, and then the pipe section within Metro North. And then the parks portion is a tree restitution cost, the greenway design, greenway construction within Van Cortlandt Park, CSX, the boardwalk, the pathway improvements Merritt explained within the Van Cortlandt Park. Those are all part of parks cost here. And within the DEP cost, we kept a large contingency in the cost for hazmat, hazardous material excavation and disposal, given the previous CSX railroads land use. So we are fully funded. This entire cost you see here is fully funded through city, through OMB, and we are good to go. Schedule, tentative schedule. The first part I mentioned, the lake improvements and restoration, we are looking to start construction in 2023. And we're looking to complete within 2 years because the lake invasive removal and then replanting, the replanting will continue a couple seasons. So that's why the construction will probably take about 2 years. And then the daylighting construction, we are planning to start 2024, 2025, and then take us through 2029. We do have a draft stakeholder engagement plan, and we have identified key players, including Community Board 8, Bronx Council of Environmental Quality, many other internal, external, and regulatory agencies, and also public, right? So we will continue to closely coordinate with all these major stakeholders and engage them multiple times throughout the design process. As you can see on this timetable, next year, starting January through December, we will meet with all those major stakeholders, present what we have, those plans we went over, right, schematics. We will present, get their comments, get their feedback, and then finalize the design by December next year. Project milestones, CSX acquisition we discussed, we are in advanced stages. City environmental quality review, seeker, which is an environmental impact study. That is in progress. We are planning to complete it summer of 2022. The design, as we went over, for the entire project is well underway. We are planning to implement it in 2 phases, the lake improvements, via restoration, and then the daylighting. The lake improvements, we held a workshop with Parks and Van Cortlandt Park Alliance, incorporated their comments. 100% design will be ready next month. So January 2022, that will be ready. And then the construction, as I mentioned, will start in 2023, go through 2025. The daylighting, the DEP, again, we're coordinating very closely with Parks, Van Cortlandt Park Alliance, daylighting within Van Cortlandt Park. We held a workshop, you saw the schematic design. We received their comments, we are incorporating their comments. And then the daylighting within CSX, we are going to have a workshop this week. Metro North property workshop will be held sometime in January, February. And then we will continue advancing the design afterwards. Overall design, we are planning to complete by the end of next year, so December 2022. And we discussed the stakeholder engagements. I think that concludes my presentation. Merit, did I miss anything? Do you want to add anything?
No, other than just that I echo many people's sentiments here, I think, when I say that it's very exciting after decades to be this far, and just appreciate all that that you've done, Tolga, as managing the project, and especially BCQ and Stephanie and everyone who's brought us this far. So thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Stephanie, I think you have some additional slides. Do you want to go over them now, or Bob,
yeah, maybe let's, if we can do that, then we can go to questions, because they're just quick.
Sounds good. Bob, you may want to give Stephanie.
I will.
Right.
Stephanie, just give me a second.
Sure.
I don't know if I can do this. I think because I'm no longer host. Could you make me host, Olga? Because then I have to pass. I think I can ask to be host. Nope, I can't. So
I can't do
Ron
it as
Dottor,
co-host.
Tolga, you need to make Stephanie host. I can't do that anymore.
Tolga will have to do it as co-host. I can't make Stephanie co-host or host.
Olga, so this is an interagency handoff yet again. You guys.
Yeah.
All right,
really...
let's see.
So if you go to the side where it says participants,
Uh-huh.
and then where Stephanie's name is, it's just say mute and more. Under the more, there'll be like under caret. Click on, and then it should say like make host, or there should be an option there.
I not see Stephanie on this list.
She's number 4 down. Just go to the top. It's not alphabetical.
Oh, I see.
It
Okay.
starts with me, you, Ramdat, then Stephanie.
All right, make host. All right, Stephanie, you should be good to go.
I am
Okay.
now the host.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so okay, so I just wanted to reiterate how excited I am about this, both as the Van Cortlandt Park Administrator and as the head of the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance. And I want to thank Tolga for doing such an amazing job with this, and BCEQ for carrying the torch for decades to bring us this far, and my colleagues at Parks who have been just amazing moving this forward. So this is really special, and I just wanted to point out that our master plan for Van Cortlandt Park, which is something that a lot of folks on the community board participated in, is from 2014, and you can see that along the way, we were always talking about daylighting this way and having an open channel plan, and so we're doing it. It's really exciting. And just to highlight the history here. So Marit started to talk about some of the ways in which this is a great plan. And I just wanted to say that there's history here, and you can see that Tibbetts Brook flows through the park. And although we aren't going to be following the exact historic route of what the brook was, this is an opportunity for us to be telling a story in the park that has not necessarily been told thus far. And this area of the park is what we've been calling the historic core. And so Tibbetts Brook, originally called Mashalou by the Lenape people who lived on the land, we will get an opportunity to acknowledge that. Van Cortlandt House Museum, it's the oldest house in the Bronx, and it's right, it's a stone's throw from this waterway. There are, we have burial grounds in the park, and those are the bodies of enslaved African people who lived in and built the park. And this is a really, really amazing opportunity for us to tell this story together with the environmental narrative that we have. And there are so many other things in this section of the park that are historic. So in addition to the environmental imperative that we have, which will be improving the riparian zone and upgrading the infrastructure that we really need to do, we're embracing an opportunity to properly tell the story of the park in its historic core and in its proper context. So this is not just the first daylighting story in New York City. It is, I think, the most important one. So so we're doing something really, really big here, and I want to thank everybody for being a part of it.
Stephanie, and I did omit that amazing milestone 2014 when Community Board 8 approved the master plan for the park, and Bob Bender and I fought like hell for that. I'm so glad we got it. So yay, got that. Before we turn over to committee and community questions, Jennifer Greenfield, I just want to recognize you, your presence, your contribution. If there were any comments or additions you'd like to make.
No, thank you. I'm just thrilled to be working with DEP. We're all on the same page. It's great that we found the funding, and we're really looking forward to having the community board support. Thanks.
Excellent. And Commissioner Rodriguez, would you like to say a few words?
I can't, for me, it's absolutely a wonderful opportunity to be able to stand as your borough commissioner and know that this finally came to fruition, something that you all have been fighting for so long and wanting to see. And if we did not seize the opportunity to do it while DEP was doing this project, it would have been shame on us for not doing so. We wanted to make sure, and I have to say again that I have to thank my Stephanie, because Stephanie went and threw it at me and said, the mayor is in the park. Can I grab him and talk about this? And I said, absolutely, grab him, take him, do whatever you need to do with the mayor to get him to focus on this. The community, BCEQ, and everyone have been looking forward to this. If we don't take this opportunity to grab him and do this, shame on us. So I'm so proud to be your borough commissioner when this has taken effect. And thank you, Robert. Thank you, Bob. Thank you all for being such champions for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone connected with this. This is a legacy project, and I'm so glad, Commissioner, you are the one on your watch. So we're very honored. So our procedure will be yes, here. So you've also answered some questions that the community has had. Will DPR and DEP be able to work together seamlessly? And you've already answered that question. There's a lot of details, but we want to thank you for a joint presentation. I thought we'd be hopping from place to place. So the order of questions will be as follows. Ramdad, if you overrule me, please stop me. I'd like to give the first question to our chair, Laura Spalter. And I just need to introduce Laura's participation here as formative. As preparing for this meeting, looking back over some pivotal resolutions that established the stake after the chair of 2014 left, Laura was there to create a series of resolutions that have made us stakeholders in both the Greenway and in daylighting. So Laura, thank you for everything you've done to get us to this point. Laura, you can go ahead and ask a question, Laura.
Sure. Thank you. In reviewing the ULURP application that Parks submitted, they had a vision, a dream to have several access points to Broadway at West 238th, West 234th, West 230th, which would benefit the shops and restaurants on Broadway. I know this is way ahead of ourselves, but is there still any vision for that kind of access points in Putnam South?
I will start, and then Parks can correct me if I'm wrong or add anything I may have missed. But yes, because we are extending the daylighting to the CSX property, there will be access points for pedestrians, for bicyclists, but definitely currently we have two for sure. From the Van Cortlandt Park South, a ramp to join the Greenway to the CSX. And of course, the current Empire State Trail, that will be extended through CSX, right? So that's the main access. But then there will be stairways we would discuss within the park. There will be a ramp from the Van Cortlandt Park South. And then definitely at the very end, where we are transitioning into a pipe, there will be an exit, whether it's the West 230th or the street in between. We are still looking into it, but there will definitely, we are looking into additional access points somewhere in middle, one or two more. So those are some things we are still looking into, and we'll be discussing with parks, getting their input and incorporating into our design.
That's great. That's great. And this presentation has been wonderful. And a big board initiative was cleaning up the garbage. Iris and I walked that Putnam South many times as the work was going on. CSX was cleaning up the garbage. Remember that? And we really got excited when we actually saw all the refrigerators and the dumping and everything gone. So it's very exciting what's happening here. And we appreciate this presentation tonight. Thank you.
Ramdad, any Parks Committee members with a question?
I saw David's hand first. So
Yes,
David,
thank
go
you. Thank you. Yeah, I hope that CSX sticks with the plan and doesn't see new infrastructure money as a way to go back to the well. I have two questions. One, for the longest time, I've discussed this with others, and I don't really understand. Tippet's Brook is presumably fed by the lake within Tippet's Brook Park in Yonkers. But that can't be the source of it. Is it fed somehow by the Sawmill River, or does the Sawmill River completely divert into the Hudson in Yonkers, which is what your daylighting picture suggests? So I'm confused about that source of all that, of the 220 million gallons of water.
Great question. Stephanie, can you make me a host again? I'm sorry. So I can share my screen.
Did that do it?
I think so. Yes. Perfect. Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So to your point, I believe this is a slide BCUK put together that we stole. Thank you so much. But as you see here,
You haven't heard the last from BCQ either.
Actually, that's a VCPA. That's a Van Cortlandt
Was
Park
it?
Alliance map. Yeah.
That might have been, yes. Thank you so much. So you see the current watershed here, and you see where Van Cortlandt Park is and where the city boundary is. But yes, this whole watershed drains into the lake, and you see the Tibbetts Brook starting way north of Yonkers and draining all the way here. So yes, it is a large watershed. The dry weather flow constantly goes through. It's a 7 CFS, as I mentioned, and then during heavy rainfalls, we are looking at about 38 to 40 CFS. Hopefully that answers.
Okay, so it really just comes from the watershed surrounding Tibbetts Brook Park, nothing to do with the Sawmill River.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. I would have expected it to require something as large as a sawmill. Okay, the other question I have is from your open channel design slide, where you showed the new path along the greenway you're creating. I think it was after that slide. No, but before that one. Sorry.
You had it before.
Yeah, that one. Yes. Okay, so you're showing that yellow path. I'm a little puzzled by, mostly to the right where the Van Cortlandt Park drive is, and then you have that walkway there. I don't quite understand that, and I also don't understand the inverted Y of blue water right above it.
Okay.
Do you want me to take that, Tolga?
Sure.
I'll give it a try. Yeah, it looks a little weird. Keep in mind this is very much a schematic, first concept, and there'll be lots of opportunities to look at it more closely. But what that little odd inverted Y represents is the low point that's under the Blue Bridge on the Putnam Trail now. So that bridge is where the Empire State Trail currently, it goes underneath that Blue Bridge. It's a low point and it's very, muddy. You can't raise it underneath because it's so low, bicyclists would hit their heads. So if we take out that path and recirculate the path, that is kind of a holding place. It represents now that it will still be a wet and low location, and obviously water will then still collect there. So it's kind of a side arm of the stream that, that would be the ultimate intention to kind of incorporate it in the wetland of the new corridor. So what that looks like exactly depends on a lot of different things, especially at that south end, but that's what it is.
Very much TBD.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. That makes more sense to me now. Thank you.
Deb Travis, you have a question from Parks or ENS or both?
I know, right? I'll start with my Parks questions and then we'll do ENS on the ENS side. I guess I wanted to start with just in terms of the lake, to kind of latch onto what David was just talking about. The watershed comes from all over the park, including the golf course and the highways into the lake. Do you anticipate that this will prevent flooding kind of just above the lake in other parts of Van Cortlandt Park? And if not, are you thinking about or like starting to make longer plans of how to kind of expand the wetlands and like manage the lake above where it currently sits? In other parts of the watershed, in other words. So maybe that's a question for Stephanie. Yeah.
It's actually a great question. And one of the things that we are planning in the new year is a water management plan for the whole park. Deb, I don't know if you're interested in joining us for that conversation, but you're more than welcome.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that would be really interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And then my other question was actually just very much around the Van Cortlandt Park South area. That entrance to the park will get a lot at where Bailey connects. We'll have a lot more foot traffic. And it's one of the most dangerous entrances. It probably is the most dangerous entrance in the entire park. And so it's just also, is this spurring kind of a side project, or is this something we should start thinking about in terms of budget and capital, for future, for future capital money?
Yes.
Superb question. The handshake there has to be budgeted. Yep.
Okay.
Everyone, Deb Travis is chair of the Traffic and Transportation Committee. We will definitely be working side by side on that crucial connection. And we'll definitely need your input on exactly what to say, because you're going to need community support. That's very important.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we're discussing Bailey Avenue at the TNT committee meeting both tomorrow and then in January. So more to come on that. And then I just have one last question, which is just the JPR connector. What is that?
Good catch.
My screen has a search for JPR. It just picks that up.
Oh, nice. So this is truly a one big water resource project. So in addition to the stormwater management we discussed, right, the daylighting and all that, we are looking into incorporating a water supply component to this project. And the current Jerome Park Reservoir, the discharge goes through exactly here where we are daylighting, and then it connects to Broadway sewer. So it's similar, like the clean water from Jerome Park Reservoir when they do blow off, when they empty the reservoirs, it goes through and goes to the treatment plant. So we are looking into ways to incorporate that into our daylighting piece and possibly discharging to the daylighting instead of going to the treatment plant. It goes through here and then gets to the discharge to the Harlem River directly. So that's also TBD, but that's something we're looking into.
Well, Deb, thank you for answering that, and thank you for talking about that, Tolga. That's really important. No, thank you. We'll come back to that.
Good eye. Yeah.
Definitely good eye. Thank you for that, GPR Hunter.
Hey, Bob. I just want to.
Committee members. Yep. Ramda.
I want to give Rosemary the opportunity to ask her question first. If you don't mind, Bob Bender.
Go right ahead.
Good, Rosemary. Thank you so much.
Oh, Ramdad, how sweet of you. Thank you very much to offer this to me. I'm going to ask a series of questions, and it's better if I just put them all out there, and then people can respond as they see fit. Okay. Number one, first of all, thank you, Tolga, for the presentation. It was a lovely presentation, very well done. But I will say that your effort, as you said, to engage stakeholders, you have never, ever engaged Community Board 8 as a stakeholder, okay? I can say point blank, Community Board 8 has never been invited to be a stakeholder in this conversation, okay? Number one. Number two, it comes to the ULURP issue, which still does bother me. It continues to bother me, that we had in 2011 a presentation and a full ULURP land use, whatever approval that legally gave the city the right to acquire the property and map it as a park. Map it as a park and acquire it. It was a parks project. I will now read just a couple of sentences from the ULURP, from the approval, and I'm going to at the end ask your comments or whatever. Okay. Access to the greenway will be by ramps. This is from the approval document. Access to the greenway, which is where the CSX piece, will be by ramps connecting the trail to street level at West 230th Street, West 234th Street, and West 238th Street, okay? And the greenway will include an 8-foot bike path and a 4-foot walkway full, okay, but it was promised access to the community at 3 points. And I will say that the answer you gave to a prior questioner, that there will be a bridge in Van Cortlandt Park and at the Harlem River, does not address what is expected in the ULURP approval of this project. Okay, next. 20 million, this clearly has changed from a parks project. It's clear to me, it's clear. Everything that's being said, I didn't hear the Parks Department, other than Natural Resources, talk about this. There's no design, there's no, how is the pedestrian walkway? What is the, as the ULURP approval says, pedestrian, bicycle, landscaping on all sides, access at 3 points. I hear none of that. If this project is now no longer a parks project and is exclusively a daylighting project, that should be, maybe that's what's being said to us right now. It should have been sent to us a long time ago. If this project is different, I would like it to be said to me and this community right now, exactly what this project is. If it's daylighting, period, end of discussion, that's fine. I'm not objecting to it. But you cannot have private conversations with people to change a project when you have a legally approved and ULURP approved project that calls for something else. So I would like somebody please to address the something else in the ULURP approvals. When did this change? Did it change? When did it change? How did it change? And what is being left by the wayside? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Maybe I'll address the first. I'll try to address it first, and then I'll let Park answer as well. And I'm sorry, I'm in trouble. I apologize for that. And maybe we did not directly engage Community Board 8, and I'm sorry, I should have made it clear. But Bob and we had a meeting, I believe with Cydia's Living Lab, was it Bob? Where we had this
Yeah, but
presentation,
those were
right?
not, I was there as representing other
Understood.
organizations, and that was not a community board meeting.
Understood.
Yeah,
Understood.
I just am
Um,
active in the community and in this issue.
So I apologize for that confusion, but we will make sure to engage CB8 directly moving forward. The Euler piece, the ramps, as I mentioned, we will have a west to 30th ramp. So at the end where we're transitioning from daylighting to Metro North, this is where west to 30th is. We are planning to put a ramp here. The other two additional ramps or connection points you mentioned to 34 to 38, those are what we are looking into, as I mentioned. And then we will have a ramp at Van Cortlandt Park South to have that connection. This is truly a daylighting and greenway corridor park, linear park. So I guess I'll let Park talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I'll jump in. The greenway portion of this project is, you know, an absolutely still essential element of the project. It's always been the driver, and it's still a co-driver with the daylighting. So indeed, I'm not, and my group and my team is not the Greenway design team, but we're in here working alongside with our designers, our landscape designers at Capitol, Parks Capital, our Greenway planners and our planning division, and of course with Stephanie and her administration at the Alliance to ensure that the design as it evolves to work basically hand in hand at every step in the design. We haven't started the design process. We just got the funding for the Greenway. So Parks is bringing the Greenway funding to the table, both in the CSX portion as well as in the park. And it's not possible to design them separately since they need to be integrated. And that's what we're going to be doing as this design process kicks off. So indeed, yeah.
Please understand me. I am not saying this shouldn't be a daylighting project. I'm saying the ULURP approval for the past 10 years, we have lived under a different proposal, okay? The community board, the Parks Department, the city brought to us a proposal. It has now changed. I am not saying it's wrong to change it. I'm asking, when did it change? And when did you come to the community to say it changed? I'm not, yes, it was, please believe, the daylighting is not part of the original proposal, not at all. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but it wasn't part of it. It changed, and you never came to us to talk about that, the change in the project. It needs to be talked about. We were sold a project, we were sold a vision. We were sold a vision. If that vision has changed, that's fine with me. But you can't come in the back door and with nobody knowing what you've been doing to now say, oh, it's all changed. Oh, it always was a daylight. It wasn't. It was something different, and it changed. And you
point of order. The question has been asked and answered. Please be nice. Point of order. Somebody chairing this meeting can ask for a point of order.
You're right. I'm done.
Thank you.
I'm finished.
Thank
Karen.
you.
Thank you.
We'll move on.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you for answering that question. And I see the last committee member from Parks is also Bob Bender. Thanks, Bob. And
Thank you, Ramdad, and thank you, Bob. And some other thank yous. I really appreciate this presentation. And I want to thank everybody from DEP and from Parks who has had a hand in where we are right now. This is very exciting that we're at this point. We've been talking about this for years, and I'm glad to see we've reached this stage. So I have two questions, basically, one of which Rosemary has largely asked. I'll frame it a little bit differently, perhaps, but I am 100% in favor of the daylighting. It's important, it's essential, and I'm thrilled to see that, that it's here. But this is also, and always has been, a parks project from south of Van Cortlandt Park to 230th Street. And I'm a bit concerned by the fact that Tolga mentioned that in January, the design will be at the 100% stage. And we don't know yet what is going to happen with the property south of Van Cortlandt to 230th Street, other than the daylighting, which again, I'm 100% in favor of, and I love it. What kind of, will there be trees along the property? Will there be, I understand there will be a bike and pedestrian path. I would love to know a little more about that. Will there be benches for people to sit down? And the access points really are important. They were in this project from the very beginning. That's a 10-block stretch, as Tolga said, 3/10 of a mile between Van Cortlandt South and 230th Street. Those access points at 234th and 238th really are important. They integrate this project into the community. So I really do want to make the point that we have to make sure that the parks component is included in what happens between Van Cortlandt Park South and 230th Street. And I am concerned that we are so far along in this project and that we are just seeing it for the first time. And this particular element is still unclear. So I would be happy for somebody to comment on that. And then I have one other question.
And sorry for the confusion. The 100% design completion is just the lake improvement section.
Okay.
So the invasive removal and replanting, as I mentioned, that is going to be completed next month.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, so the daylighting piece.
Very important.
Yeah, the daylighting within Van Cortlandt Park, CSX, the Metro North, those are at very, very early stages. We have the schematic design for the Van Cortlandt Park piece. And then the CSX, we even don't have that. So we are working on it. And as I mentioned, come January through March, we will definitely engage CB8 and other stakeholders and present those sketches and get your comments, get your feedback.
Okay. Tolga, can I ask you to prioritize what would we be seeing next? Obviously, you're not going to be speaking about designs for a property you don't own, but just to make sure we're taking a look at maybe 75% or 50% designs, what would you prioritize as things that the committee board could be seeing?
I think the first will be the advanced schematic designs. So the Van Cortlandt Park, and we will have CSX, even though we don't own it, we will still put a schematic design. So we will present those to the community board. And then the 75% and all that will come after March.
Oh, okay. So this is pre-75. Okay.
Yep.
So,
So
Rhonda,
Tolga,
other parts?
does that, Bob, if I may, so Tolga,
Sorry,
does that address the question when you come back? Are you also going to address the parks aspects of this property? You know, the plantings, the benches, and the access points?
I'll defer to parks, but yeah, that will be part of the design elements.
This is something I think our parks planning, Greenway planning and capital team will help us take the lead on. That we expect, and I'll say this with the caveat that we're so early in the stage, not even having the funding yet, that we haven't mapped out our next steps with respect to making sure that the parks approach and parks milestones are incorporated in the DEP project, and we will be doing that. I mean, starting tomorrow, but we generally have a scoping meeting where we come to the community without even a schematic design, just with like, this is the site, these are the elements, what is it that, going back to the earlier points, what's expected through the ULURP, through earlier commitments. And that's from Parks perspective where we would start prior to even coming back with a schematic design. So what we showed you earlier, just sort of for orientation, because it's a very familiar location to many of us in the park, was really in some ways premature. So we're so early in the stages that we haven't even mapped out all of the times that we're coming to the community, I would say.
But thank you for that, Mara. And you will
you,
be
Bob.
back sometime in the next few months. Do I understand that correctly?
That's what I would expect. And I think tomorrow we'll probably have a better sense of that and can share that.
Okay,
I'm
thanks.
sorry, it might be Friday.
Okay.
Ramdad, are there other?
I'm sorry. Let me just, the other question I had, and it may be that you can't answer this question at this point, but I want to ask it anyway. We did have a previous bad experience with CSX, as several of the community board 8 members know. And I understand that there is still no actual signed agreement in place at this point. And again, if you can't comment on this, tell me that. But how confident is everybody that we are going to get CSX's signature on this agreement?
Let me interject at that point. At the last I spoke to our legal department, they were engaging the city law department now has gotten involved in terms of trying to progress the conversation. So I think at this point now, with the change of administration that's coming up, we're going to engage the powers that be in the new administration to push the envelope. So as it stands right now, our legal counsel told us that it is progressing, and also that the city's law department has been getting involved in it.
Oh, well, thank you for that, Commissioner, and let us know, please, because
yes,
I can tell you, we will get people out there to demonstrate that we will do whatever it takes at this point to get CSX back to the table and get this resolved. They burned us once, it's not going to happen again.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
And if I may add, they are being very responsive. The people that we are dealing with CSX, and to be fair to them, they are being responsive. We are, as I mentioned, the purchase and sale agreement, it went through 2 or 3 iterations back and forth, CSX providing comments, our lawyers, legal departments providing comments back. So they are heavily engaged. And as I mentioned, hopefully we'll hear the good news soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Bob. There are no more Parks Committee members with their hands up.
Nick Fazio.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much for this presentation. I have a few questions. First, Tolga, I absolutely commend you on your GIS skills. I hope one day to reach a high level of mediocrity, and that wouldn't be halfway as sophisticated as what you put together here.
I wish it was me, but thank you.
Well,
I do have a GIS background, yes.
So that's not surprising. A couple of questions. One is, what approvals will you need at this point beyond the easement through Metro North? I mean, you mentioned seeker. I assume you have a secra. So what else? What other approvals will you need?
Right. So the seeker is going through, it's in progress. CSX portion we discussed, the Metro North piece, we discussed the easement that's needed. There are a couple other things, the JPR connection we are looking into, as I mentioned, the chlorine level and all that may come into play, speedy permit, the DEC permits we are looking into for the lake piece. But I don't see it like a showstopper besides the CSX piece, to be honest.
So nothing here has to go through the city planning commission at this point.
I am not the expert in that process. I'm not sure if Parks can speak to that.
We'll have
But
to take that back to planning.
we can,
Yeah,
yeah, we can.
you mentioned an EIS for this. I wasn't sure what that was for.
EIS?
Wasn't there
Environmental
a
impact
project
statement.
milestone of
Oh, the
an
seeker, right?
Yeah, EIS for this. What was that actually for?
The seeker and EIS are two different things.
Well, EIS will take place within seeker, but what is the planned EIS on?
That we have to get back to you. Sorry.
So next question, obviously the access, as Bob and Rosemary mentioned, are extremely important, particularly for this community. And two other questions, and they're somewhat related conceptually, just in terms of coordination. As you know, in this city, we have sort of suffered through spot planning, and I'm kind of just making up a term here, but I think you know what I mean. Is this been coordinated with, for instance, for example, with the Bronx Point development project and the access to the Harlem River at Mill Pond? And also we mentioned bike lanes, and has this been at all, has the regional plan associations rendering of the interborough bike lane, which is my memory, as I recall, I believe runs parallel to a bike lane, if there was a bike lane in your rendering. If that got too complex, let me know. I'll reiterate.
I'm waiting.
I think that's also a Greenway question that our Greenway point person would have to answer. So we'll take that down and get back to you. Is that all right?
So have you coordinated with any projects along the Harlem River with Mill Pond? And I believe that's DCP is working on that at Bronx Point, but I'm not 100% sure.
In terms of future greenways sections, not for this project. I mean, I think that's not been the focus. In the larger greenway sense, planning has definitely can give that perspective. So I'd get back to you on that.
Definitely.
Right, and that does, and as impressive as this is, and I know this is a very complicated project, both of those two items kind of give me pause, because it would be a shame if we did this and spent 160 million or whatever it is, and all this time and energy and this fabulous work that you're doing, if there wasn't a linkage to this, to create a more comprehensive, in other words, this being a component to a continuation of greenways and access and bike lanes, to actually operationalize and coordinate that. Because again, we have had so many different spot plans where we have bike lanes to nowhere and greenways with limited access, or access that essentially discriminates against particular neighborhoods. So I really would encourage you, and again, I understand this is way more complicated than many people realize, but I would encourage who's ever overseeing this plan to coordinate that with the Bronx Point development and with the regional plan associations rendering with the interconnected bikeway, because that would be an absolute shame if we had a bike lane 2 blocks away from an access point to this through a dangerous intersection like at where the Deegan and Bailey Avenue and Van Cortlandt Park intersect. I hope
I'd like
that
to
all makes
recognize,
sense.
Nick, thank you for that. I'd like to recognize Chauncey Young as the coordinator of the Harlem River Working Group and has been working on the connectivity for about 15 years. Go ahead, Chauncey.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Evening all. Certainly, we have brought this up to city planning, city DOT. I serve on DOT Bikes Infrastructure Committee, so definitely have been raising these issues up, and it is part of Greenway plan. But you're right, Nick, I think in trying to make sure that all this work is coordinated. Clearly, we 100% support the daylighting, because not only will it make this connection possible and the importance of daylighting the Tibbetts Brook, but also, you know, the direct connection to the New York State Empire Trail. This would be the safest route once the Harlem River Greenway is connected for all New Yorkers. It would take bicyclists off of Broadway and bring people directly into the park without having a lot of the traffic issues that exist right now, getting folks from the Empire States Trail on the Hudson River to the Van Cortlandt Park. So I think this is something that is really important, and certainly we'll be continuing working with CB8 and all the different partners in this.
Thanks. And everybody, it looks like there is a break at 2:30, and the future path of the Greenway really all the way to Roberto Clemente. So it's a longstanding project. To say that there is a Harlem River Greenway plan approved by borough presidents, and we are looking at a northern terminus, and then we have a continuation at around 190 at the future Fordham Landing development, and a break in between. So Nick, we're going to have to go. We're going to need a dog leg somehow to connect them. Big issue. Camelia,
Understood. Thank you.
Camelia had your hand up, and then we'll go to members of the community. And Karen, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you so much. Let me just say first, hello to Commissioner Iris Rodriguez. Nice to see you on this side of the neighborhood. Yes, it's still me. I mean, Bob, I hear the excitement in your voice and in Laura's voice and Bob's voices, and I'm just like so thrilled to be able to see this presentation. And thank you so much for, you know, the titanic work, really like brick over brick to get to this point. Thank you, Tolga, for the very clear presentation. If you wouldn't mind going to the sharing screen, to the slide where you have sort of the three large pieces, the blue, and red. For me to be able to explain my question. First of all, just to say, if you would be able, let's say, assuming, following Bob's question, Bob Bender, assuming, let's say, a deal with CXX with a price tag and an approval by the city in, I don't know, 6 months, most optimistic scenario here. What would be the time frame for completion for all agencies, be it parks, be it DP, be in coordination with both DOT and DCP, which I think will have to happen at some point? What would be the kind of overall time frame for completion? Again, your most conservative scenario for the two blue pieces, for the north piece connection to Van Cortlandt, and for the central piece along Broadway. That would be my first question. My second question would be related to my experience working along Broadway. Laura may remember a meeting probably 3 years ago. I wasn't even a committee board member yet. When I came to her with pictures, it was like a heavy rain in October, nothing really significant by New York City standards, probably like 2 days of heavy rain, showing her flooding of Broadway businesses, literally swimming pool in the lower level of a garage, swimming pool in a lower level of a funeral homes, a funeral home at Williams funeral home, people pumping from their basements water, and guess what, spilling it on Broadway to be absorbed back into the sewer system. So just to let you know, again, this project will have a dramatic impact in many more ways than you anticipate, also having a significant sort of economic development contribution. My question being here, actually linked to the red piece, right? I mean, the connection to the Harlem River on the side of Marble Hill, on the, what is this? East side of Marble Hill. As you probably know, Marble Hill is also a environmental justice area. And I know this is the most challenging sort of part, because CSX, if my understanding is correct, wants to retain usage of that section for whatever, to park the cars or whatever it is. I mean, the the train cars. And if there is any chance in the world for us to aim for this in the long run. So 2 large questions: time frame on the blue sections, assuming smooth deal with CSX in, let's say, 6 months, and any comments, anything you can give me as far as the red section, the Marble Hill connection, I would really, really appreciate it. And once again, just thanks everyone for this. It's hard not to plan, breaking the champagne, but well, we're not quite there yet, but thinking about it.
Okay, you can answer the question now. Thank you.
Thank you. No, great questions. I'll start and then I'll let others to chime in as well. But as far as the schedule, as we discussed, while we wait for CSX acquisition, we are working on the design, right? We are advancing the design. We will be presenting all these to CB8 and other stakeholders and, finalize the design by the end of next year. And we are hoping the CSX acquisition will take place sometime next year. That will be ready, and then the design will be completed. The first part I mentioned, right, the lake invasives replanting, that will start first, that construction. And we're looking at 2023 to start that construction. As for the daylighting, we are going to do these 3 sections, the Van Cortlandt Park, CSX, and the Metro North, all will be one big comprehensive construction project. And the current plan is to start that construction in 2024, 2025. So we still have time to finalize the design, get community feedback, improve our design, go through CSX acquisition, go through Metro North easement, right? Get everything in place, and then start construction 2024, 2025. The completion for the lake piece, we're looking at 2025. For the big construction, the completion, we're looking at 2029. So that's going to take a while to construct.
And on the red piece, any chance? Sorry,
I did not understand your question about the red piece. I'm so sorry.
If there is any chance in the universe that this would potentially be considered as a phase 2, whether it's in 10 years, in 15 years, whatever, as a sort of obvious connection to the Harlem River.
For the Greenway?
Between 230th and 225th.
I see.
Yes.
For the Greenway and daylighting, I don't believe so, because as I mentioned, Metro North actively uses these tracks. They do use it as storage. Their construction activities, I can't even remember what it is, but their trains are going back and forth and they are actively using that. So currently there's no
so
plan.
for the Marble Hill community, the access would be there where the blue line starts, basically at 230th, at the 230th, correct? Great. Thank you so much. I understand.
There is no public access in that red section, correct?
I understand, but that's good enough. It's very good. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Camelia. All right. I just want to make sure our community board members have been recognized. And Ann Roush, you've been waiting. Thank you for your patience, Ann. Go ahead.
Hi, Bob. So actually, Michael and I each have a question. We're both here. So, of course, echo what others have expressed about their excitement and thank yous for this. It's really great news. This is a little tangential, but I understand, the golf course is a private concession, but I'm just wondering if there's still an issue with pesticide and herbicide runoff. Since we're talking about daylighting and
not tangential at all.
And if there's anything that can be done to address that, if this is still a source of water pollution.
That's something we'll take it back and get back to you on that.
And Michael had a question.
Great. Hi, guys. I'm speaking as someone who's involved with the Van Cortlandt House Museum through the Historic House Trust. And we had conversations, this is for parks, about 3 years ago with parks design staff. And I just wanted to put it back on the radar as part of the design job for the daylighting adjacent projects. The Van Cortlandt House Museum faces south. It faces a very lovely but disintegrating wrought iron gate, which then faces a beautiful brick stair that was built in the 1920s that goes down to what used to be a formal park that is now a place where people kind of defecate behind the pool. The plan at that time that was discussed with park staff was that was going to be an area where a wetlands was going to be constructed. And what we had asked at the time on behalf of the museum was that the design staff, when they were doing the design, consider restoring that historic stair, which would allow the house to communicate with landscape. It's now kind of an island. And second, to design the wetlands in such a way that it tied into the house with a formal garden that was also a wetland garden. And the staff at that time also felt that was feasible. So I know that it's a long time ago, but I just wanted to kind of put that on the horizon so that the house could tie itself into the new development, and that the monies spent on the daylighting and park improvements, which included making that now back area safer and more accessible to the public, would at the same time integrate the concerns of the house museum and integrate the house museum better into the overall life of the park.
Stephanie,
If I
think
may.
this is yours. Yep.
So I'm sorry, Matt, but I would love to talk with you more about this, because you're touching upon a whole bunch of different ideas that, there's nothing new under the sun, as they say. So these are ideas that we have currently, and that at the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance and at Parks we're thinking about. So is it Michael? Is that
Yeah.
your? So
Yes.
Michael, would love to talk with you, and maybe we can be in touch, because this is absolutely on the Alliance's radar.
Michael,
Great.
I'll introduce you to Stephanie. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob.
We're going to close this down very soon. So Robert, Zach, and then Deb Travis, and then Karen Argenti. So Zach, go ahead. I'm sorry, Robert, go ahead.
You mean Robert Barron?
Correct.
Great. First of all, congratulations on this. It's really an impressive thing. I'm sorry, can you hear me? Is that okay?
We can.
Okay, sorry. So my question follows on some of the Greenway questions. Is the closed channel, what is the width of that, like, perspective expected to be? And also, what is the height, sort of, is that going to be above the tracks, or is this going under the tracks? Because I mean, my thinking is that we want to take the Greenway, I mean, as one person said, as far south as possible to get as close to the Harlem River, get as close to the Broadway Bridge where the Empire State Trail continues. And I see. So it's 7 feet wide.
Yeah.
Okay. But it is going to be raised up above the tracks, though. Is that correct?
So it will be next to the tracks, as you see here, between the Major Deegan and the tracks.
Yeah.
It will be about the same height as the tracks, towards West 230th, because of the slope and the topography. Some of it will be exposed, some of it will be above will be higher than the tracks, but going south, it will be totally underground. You won't be able to see those. That's the height.
Okay, and it's only projected to be as the widest that you're saying it'll be is 7 feet.
That is the current plan.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for the
Nice
question.
job, everybody.
Thanks. Zach?
Hi, good evening. This is a really exciting project. My question is around flooding, and whether someone else brought this up, the flooding on Broadway, and obviously there was so much flooding on the Deegan, whether as part of this project, there's going to be some analysis of how flooding might be lessened by allowing more space in the Broadway sewer, and also, of course, consideration of storm surge going back up the channel. And so I guess I'm just wondering the degree to which the kind of community impact and flood reduction, and also a gate or backflow prevention are part of the future design of the project, or are not.
Interesting. Thanks for the question. That's a great
Yeah,
question.
great questions. Yes, it will be part of the outfall connection. There will be a flap gate, so sea
There'll be
level rise.
backflow controls.
Backflow controls, exactly. So the sea level rise, or heavy rains, the water cannot go through the pipe and go through the daylight channel. So it will be the one-way street essentially. And to answer your question about the flooding, yes, we are looking into it. As you pointed out, the daylighting this channel, sending the flow to the daylighted channel will create some additional capacity within the Broadway sewer. So we are hoping there will be some reduction in the flooding, but that's something we are looking into.
Tolga, just from a project management part, two things. One would be the impact of pesticides on the water quality of the lake, which we are very concerned about. That came up before. And the ability to reduce your outfall contamination at 056. Secondly, we know that you've been involved in the Mayor's Office of Climate Resiliency response to Ida, which is just so crucial. And we just wanted to make sure you are part of that, and daylighting is getting the latest storm capacity estimates based on climate change and all, because it's a moving target, as you know. Even this planned 5 years ago may be dealing with much more water because of climate change. So I just wanted to follow up on the last two issues. We definitely want you to get integrated deeply into flood mitigation planning, stormwater management for the city of New York. This is so crucial. We are vulnerable. This is a basin. The Deegan is a basin. Zach, thanks for the question. Deborah.
Actually, that's the perfect setup for my question, which is that, so this part of the Deegan from the south of the park to 225th is, when you looked at the Tibbetts watershed, the water is coming down from Kingsbridge Heights as well, along the Deegan. And so what I was wondering, I guess, is the water is clearly going to be gathered and daylighted from the park and brought down. Water that's coming straight down into the daylighting will get mitigated. But is there any thinking about also just on the other side of the Deegan having some catchment so that the water can get across the highway or under the highway, so that it's not stopped essentially, so you're not flooding the highway on one side before you can actually get the water to the daylighted channel. And I mostly bring this up because it's unique in that it is Parks property on both sides of the Deegan. And so it just seems like there is an opportunity to direct water from the east side of the Deegan to the channel somehow, so that you can completely mitigate the stormwater dangers to the Deegan. So I was just wondering if that was, if you were thinking of that corridor holistically, or if you were mostly just thinking about the west side of the Deegan.
That's a great point. We are looking into only the lake piece. We are not looking into incorporating Major Deegan, the current catch basins and the sewer system that currently drains to somewhere else. But that's something we can definitely look at.
Because it's kind of part of your earlier map where you've got the red part that would be the new the new catchment. And then the only other part I wanted to just ask was if you were working with New York State DOT at all. Particularly, I was just thinking of like the experience of people walking along this path. There's going to be traffic noise, there's going to be pollution, there's going to be, it's a truck route. I mean, is New York State DOT involved at all in just, mitigating for the highway?
They are part of the major stakeholders we identified, and we will definitely engage them.
And is there any sign-offs or anything that's going to be that you're expecting, like on the list of all the folks who have to sign off on things?
I think the Jersey barriers that we may touch, so we will definitely coordinate, and then possibly painting the bridges based on the City as a Living Lab concept. So those two things, I think we will definitely coordinate.
Well, to this point of information, we had 2 meetings, environment meeting here about the need to engage state DOT with some green infrastructure planning to mitigate. So September and then November, and we did bring that concern to MOCR. So we definitely are interested. Thanks. So I'd like to give the last word to a person who's a member of the Environment and Sanitation Committee, community member, but has probably more experience in advocacy time with daylighting and Greenway than anyone in this room. So that will be the last question, by the way. Karen Argenti, that'll be our last question. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Tolga, I was wondering if, just building on what Deb said, I suspect that the outfalls of the major expressway on both sides discharge into some DEP pipe, maybe along Broadway someplace. And there may be an outfall that's on the the east side that could just be put into a rain garden type of thing that maybe somebody else could take care of, but not DEP. I'm just saying. You don't have to answer that. And then the other thing is that I just like to bring to the attention of the committee and the community board that the red section that is not, you're not able to go through because it belongs to Metro North, that's just from the sense of the water, because that's going to go underground. But if you have a continuous bike path, we need a route to get a walker, a pedestrian, or a bike to where it's going to pick up at the end, when it comes, when it's over at Fordham Landing. And so we need a way to get from 230th Street up the stairs, I guess, because there's a set of stairs there, I think, onto, say, Bailey for the pedestrians. And that may not be part of the DEP project. That may be part of what you'd call an alternative route. And so we need to kind of plan that too. So that's something that, Deb, maybe we should be looking at along Bailey Avenue. It's a terrible intersection. There's a lot of cars there. So it's kind of interesting. But it is still part of the community board and up until 225th Street, in which then it becomes part of Community Board 7. And so the community board should be looking at that, because if you have a greenway that stops at 230th Street, but it's part of the Empire State Trail, it really needs to be continued.
Yeah.
And thank you very much, everybody. This is a great presentation.
Karen, thank you. I just want to say that there were, to follow up on those traffic issues, there's, Deb, you brought up the connections at 242nd, and then for budgeting purposes, and then it looks like we do need an off CSX or railroad route between 230th and where it picks up in Community Board 7, the Greenway that is. So we are going to have to spend some time and walking that route with traffic and the Greenway division of traffic who certifies routes. So we will definitely be at work on that.
Yeah, and then
Ramdot,
also the Broadway Bridge, I think is where the other
Broadway
part of that
Bridge,
route.
yes. Okay. So Ramdot, I have no more questions. It's up to you if you want to recognize anybody else.
No, I think we're good for now.
Okay. So I'd like to make a proposal, and that Ramdot and I
Sorry,
hold.
I'm sorry, there were two people left to speak. How do you ignore two people?
I didn't ignore. I said that I was going to end the
Good,
questions after
fine.
Karen, and everyone had a question to ask.
I
Here's
don't have a
myself.
question. I have one statement. I have one statement, and it's from the ULURP document, and it says, DPR has agreed to present renderings and schematic design drawings of the project to Community Board 8 as soon as plans are ready. That's all I have to say.
So
I hope
may,
that that's it. That's all I have to say.
it's
There you
been
go.
heard, and I'd like to say the following, that is one of the things we will debrief about. So we've got a couple of issues about schedule of further presentations. Ramdot, just jump in at any time. Those traffic connections that are crucial to Broadway and to possibly Bailey. We covered the role of DPR within the South Putnam extension, that is south of the park, some clarification there. And what I would like is anyone from my committee who would like to get a question to me that we can follow up with Marit, Tolga, and Stephanie about follow-up. Please email me. I'm sure Ramdot, you want to hear from your committee as well.
Of course.
Because this has been immensely productive, finding some items that we can work together on. Go ahead.
Sorry, Bob. On the park side, what I heard were designed for landscaping around the lake. Design for the greenway itself. What is that going to look like, and how is that going to be connected? And if anyone from the Parks and Rec Committee also have any questions as well, please direct them to me, and Bob and I will send a joint question guide to be followed up with answers as well.
Yeah. So I want to thank the presenters today for both a kind of round of applause about how far you've come in this and the commitments. We heard some incredible things here this evening. Number one is that we will have an extension of the Putnam Trail within Van Cortlandt Park, which is fantastic. That has not been said before. Please take that away. Number two is that the money is committed. We have this we have the money for this. Okay. We have some real serious issues about south of 230th Street, how we continue with the Harlem River Greenway, which is a plan from the last century. But we have a community boards construct here, which allows us to pull together different agencies in a common space and work on problems. So with that, I'd like to thank our presenters and all the time they've spent. We have a few more agenda items from each committee, one of which is to talk about flooding from our last two meetings. So, and if anyone has questions about daylighting, please email the community board and we will get those to, and Greenway, we will get those to the representatives and you'll get answers. But we're going to end this section on the daylighting of Greenway. Ramdot, unless you would like to continue.
No, I think we can end it as well. Thank you to Tolga, thank you to Stephanie, Marit, the commissioner, everyone for making sure that our questions were answered. Sorry, I'm like a little stuffy. And we're looking forward to making sure that we continue be in the conversation about the plans for daylighting.
Thank you. Thanks. All right. So, Ramdot, please, everyone is free to stay. Ramdot, why don't you give your chairperson report?
Perfect. First thing, I do want to thank Bob Bender and Bob Fanuzzi for making sure that this joint meeting was very successful. And just a few agenda items that I just wanted to address. We know that, you know, we have a graffiti issue in the community, but we've seen it spill over into some of the parks. So I do want to just thank Parks for, you know, being very responsive to our requests for cleaning up some of the graffiti, such as in Seton Park and also Bruss Park. We put in those requests and the cleanups were done in a very responsive and timely manner. So just quickly, thank you to Parks for that. And also I just want to thank Herb. Parks did not have a meeting in November because of the Thanksgiving holiday. So I just want to thank one of our community committee members, Herb Barrett, for a fantastic Veterans Day event at Memorial Grove. And thank you, Stephanie, and all of the committee members who helped out with that. And that ends my chair's report, Bob.
Great. Here's my chair's report, everybody. The DEC has notified the community board that there is a application for Karen. This is Spetty's application for 056. That's a renewal of the ability for an outfall at 056. It's being renewed right now. There is a rule change. Effie, are you here? I don't understand this, but
Yeah.
I'll talk to you later. A rule
Sure.
change within SECRA, something going from DEP to OER, Office of Remediation. I wasn't quite sure about that, but there was a comment period, but I will get clarification from you, okay?
Sure.
Not just sure about that one, unless you know exactly what I'm talking about.
No, I'll definitely look into it though.
Okay.
You and I can talk about it offline. Mhm.
Thank you. There is an asbestos rule change that has a public hearing date on 12/23. There are some Palisades folks who will definitely want to hear about this. And again, Effie, do you have any background on the asbestos DEP's hearing on asbestos reporting rule changes?
No, I haven't heard about that. But like I said, Bob, as long as you let me know in advance, you know, I
Yeah.
can definitely look
Yeah,
into
well,
it. and get back to
okay,
you. Yeah.
just making sure we are forwarding our questions to you. Now, a lot of people brought up flooding, and I definitely want to invite you to our January meeting because thanks to the efforts of Effie, Community Board 8's Environment and Sanitation Committee will be hosting a community liaison representative for the new Unified Stormwater Management rules for building in the city of New York. I cannot impress upon you the need for this and the timeliness of this. And the unprecedented nature of it. There will be changes in how buildings are made to capture water, okay? And this could have immediate impact on many of the buildings that are made in an area like ours, which is prone to flooding and also has a lot of rock and natural areas. So please come back to us in January. We're very thankful for Efri and Mikkel Agate for coming. And then finally, I just want to say that we've neglected sanitation issues today, but sanitation is picking up leaf in Community District 8, in addition to organic composting, organic refuse. Okay, so that's my chair's report. So Ramdat, do you have any old business?
Parks and Recs does not have any old business to take care of at this moment in time.
All right. So I just wanted to, who was the last person to have the screen or be the host? I kind of lost track. Tolga, if they had it.
Rampa, I have one piece of old business. Maybe it's just an update.
Yes, go ahead, Deb, sorry.
Just on the Jerome Park Reservoir trees. Has there been any
Right.
update on the trees?
Yeah, thanks, Deb, for reminding me about that. Sorry, Bob. So because we don't have a December meeting, we will invite Zev to our January meeting to update us about the report that Department of Forestry has put together. So yeah, thanks Deb for reminding me of that. I do really appreciate it.
Hi, we were supposed to talk about the Ludlow water filtration plant
Yes,
problem
thank
with
you.
the
Yep,
odor.
sure,
So-
sure. Yep.
So may I?
I think this is the right time because it is old business, remember?
Yeah, it
You've
is
come to
old.
us before. Thank you, Pam. Go ahead. So can you
Okay,
introduce
fine.
yourself and
Sure.
and describe your issue?
Yeah, I'm Pamela Clyburn, and I'm here tonight with Myra Fassner, Amelia Barbanel, and Debbie Peters, and we're all residents of Skyview. And we have a long-standing problem with the Ludlow water filtration plant, which is the raw sewage plant. Many years I started as just a one person trying to come up against the plant, and I get asthma from the plant, and I also got 2 serious lung infections in which I had organisms in my lungs that are in raw sewage. And studies show that people who work in waste filtration plants can get those organisms in their lungs. So I contacted the plant, and they regularly came to my apartment with this Ghostbuster looking kind of machine to check the air. They would either have a broken machine, they wouldn't find anything, or they would find levels that were very low. So after that, more residents got involved with me, and we actually went to the plant, and they showed us around, very happy to do so, showed us all the latest things. They had to control the odors, but no odors were controlled. We found out in the meantime that raw sewage sludge was being brought down Riverdale Avenue in an open truck on which tarps were blowing off. And one of the local congressmen, I can't think of whom right now,
Elliot Engel.
yeah, he was responsible for having the trucks rerouted. So up to date, oh, the last thing was that Myra Fassner and I came to your office, and the last plan was that since we should call 211, but we couldn't tell them that the plant was in Yonkers because they only handle the boroughs. So I tried doing that every time I smelled the smell, and they would say, well, where's the smell coming from? I would say, I don't know. And they asked me what the nature of the smell was. I would tell them. They asked me if I'd call my management. And I called the management. They didn't do anything. They never smelled anything. They don't want to smell the raw sewage all the time. So we're still, like, years later, I'm battling with lung issues. I'm probably going to be moving within the year just because of this problem. But we're all battling with it's horrible. It's winter, summer, and the summer it's worse. So that's the story.
Pam, thank you for coming, and thank you for the Skyview representation this evening. By way of history, we've had 2 community committee discussions of this in the past, have not been able to solve it. I met with Myra and company and representatives in the Skyview office with Kira. And I believe at the time we had talked about you contacted the Department of Health to deal with environmental contaminants. You know the jurisdiction issue, that this is a Yonkers facility over which this community board has zero control. But that's why I reached out to the Congressman Elliot Engel, and they were not able to determine the source of the smell. I kept on them, and they reached a different conclusion, unfortunately, about making that responsibility. So I'd like to just at this point ask my committee members if they have any advice for how to pick up this issue again, or whether to pick up this issue again. And I'll just open to some people who may be hearing this for the first time. It's very troubling. We're sorry to hear about your health concerns.
Yeah, I think we have to find out who regulates the speedies permit for that. And I'm just looking.
That's an excellent idea, Karen.
I'm just looking, and I see that not too long ago, I have this article that I found. Oh, tomorrow, actually, I came out. Latimer and County Board requests $69 million for odor control at Yonkers wastewater treatment plant. I can't believe it.
odor control, which means they recognize a problem.
Yes. I'll
Um,
put it, oh, I can't put it in the chat.
no,
Paul,
because they disabled
you.
chat. Karen, if you
I'll
could forward that, Pam, could you
Yes.
please contact the community board?
Mm-hmm.
We will take action because there's an acknowledgement of harm or odor,
Oh,
and you will
good.
be part by a remediation. And if there's any speedies, that's an ability to pollute, by the way, by a pollution control center, a treatment center, I'm sorry. And so there is an active permit. So there's pressure to impose, although I am not an official of Yonkers. We have a new congressperson or or a state representative who would be helpful here.
Yeah, it's a state problem. It's, you gotta find it. I mean, it's gotta go to DEC eventually, so, but maybe the county, they have to fill it, do something with the county. I don't know. So I'm gonna send it to you.
Pam, could you promise to write me your contact,
sure.
represent everybody? And Karen, if you could send me that, this is new life in this issue. Thank you, Karen, so much.
Sure.
Thank you.
That was purely by accident. I'll read the article and see if there's anything else in it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd love to get my hands on the article.
I will forward it, Pam. I will
If you,
definitely-
if you, Pam,
Yes,
my email is karen@bceq.org.
at
bceq.org.
bceq.org. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Send it to you.
Excellent.
Okay.
Pam,
Thank
thanks for
you.
coming back. Dan, your hand has been up for a long time. Did you have old
It
business
has.
or new business?
I guess it could be either right now. The question is this: can DEP send out a copy of that PowerPoint presentation, or can you or Ramdot send out a copy of that
Done.
PowerPoint presentation
Done.
to the board?
Excellent. Yep.
Awesome.
Done.
Thank you. That was the
Is that
question.
all, Dan?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
All
All
right.
right. Bye-bye.
Amelia. We haven't heard from you this evening yet.
Amelia?
Barbanel. Your hand is up. Pam, if you can lower your hand if it's, Amelia, can we come back to you, Amelia? Okay, and it looks like you're up again.
Just a quick suggestion on the issue with the smell. And if there are children who are being impacted, and the reason I ask that is because the Mount Sinai has a pediatric environmental health specialty unit that's funded by the state to look into sources of toxic exposure for children. And they have been very instrumental in getting changes made when it affects the health of children. So if it can be demonstrated that there is some exacerbation of asthma in kids, or, from the smell, it's something that can be reported to them, and they will investigate. And sometimes they can get, levers moved because of, their reputation.
This is an affected senior population as well, and is there protection for seniors as well?
Well, so they may have a way to connect people with other environmental advocacy groups that do this. Their focus is on children, and that's what they're funded to do. So that's why I was asking if there's a way to bring kids into this, they can get involved.
So that is organizing advice to have, it's another front for the Skyview effort to engage families who may be affected, because, and if you wouldn't mind sending that information to me, I'll forward it to the group.
Sure.
Thank you, Ann. All right, we're knocking them down. Amelia, did you have a question? I want to come back to you. Don't want to ignore you. Amelia Barbanel. Okay, going. Okay, Jody.
Hey there, everybody. I heard sewage, so my ears perked up. So I texted Karen the Westchester odor complaint form and another article on which Westchester elected officials are trying to help mitigate those odors. So maybe those could be resources to the people in Skyview, because I know that was a big complaint back in 2018 as well.
Sure.
So without Chad, it's kind of hard to share those things. So
Annoying,
Karen
right?
will pass those along.
Okay, Jody, did you hear about asbestos rule changes?
Yes, but the building's almost done, so, but the people near Bruss Park will be interested because
Okay.
their building hasn't been destroyed yet.
December 23rd, 11 o'clock. I think I'd like to publicize that on Facebook. Let's come back to that. All right, Ramdat, you had your hand up.
So also might be worth pointing out this is an environmental justice zone, not Skyview itself, but at 261st up to the city border. Remember that was that little tag.
There. I remember that well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, by virtue of proximity to Medicare. Excellent. So Pam, we have some new life in this issue. Environmentalism and hazard are taking more seriously, even in the couple years, 2018, since you've been back. All right. So because Tolga has left the building, he has taken with him my ability to share the screen. So his departure is your gain.
Actually, Bob, sorry, Stephanie can make you host again.
Oh, you can. Okay.
Stephanie, are you still here?
I am.
Yeah,
Hold
can
on.
you please make Bob host again? Thanks.
We've come full circle.
Okay. This really was kind of like a kumbaya, not quite, but as far as the screen sharing, yes. Thank you, Stephanie. It looks, yeah, I can be host again.
Yay.
So I am just going to let everybody see a effort that I'd like to pursue for January as well, especially because we have DEP coming back for stormwater. So this is old business because we did talk about flooding in September and in November. And I sent out a query to my committee about a need for an approach that is not citywide. In fact, uses our locality in our community board structure for budgeting and for planning and for advocacy. So this is just a work in progress. I am showing you that some ideas have already come back. I want to thank Deb and Karen for giving me ideas. And if you see in the minutes and you heard at the community board meeting last night, I'm not entirely happy with the methodology that's being used to plan for increased flooding and storms in this area. And so a lot of those methods and principles are at the top there. And you already saw today, the second one, the watershed approach. Stephanie, your map is really crucial for that, in which we do look at our storm vulnerability by our proximity, our connection to Westchester and the watershed that we share. So we're going to continue this, but also if David is here, David Gelman, this will be our new framework for budgeting, a companion to our environmental justice framework that we used in previous years. And so there's a number of items that we've already could start contributing. And I do think that given the proximity of Bailey to the Deegan, I think there's great opportunity for some right-of-way. I said their Broadway corridor, which everybody knows, and we've been unsuccessful in getting green infrastructure. But Deb, I just would say parallel to Broadway, the Bailey Broadway, including Bailey, I'll put that down, okay? Just so it's clear to everybody.
Yeah. Well, and DOT seems to be, I haven't completely finished reading the new street plan that they just released, but that they're dividing the city by and fundamentally environmental justice zones by racial makeup, income, and amount of capital funds that have been utilized in the past. And so in that metric, kind of everything east of, I think it's either east of Bailey or east of the Deegan. I think it's maybe east of the Deegan is a tier 1 within NYC DOT. So it's a higher priority than 2/3 of the rest of the city. They basically divided the city into 3 tiers. Yeah.
So we may be getting some coordinated budget requests because of our vulnerability by all our roadways. Okay. And I think people forget just how much real estate is taken up by asphalt right down the middle of Van Cortlandt Park. and through Kingsbridge and Marble Hill. So David, I saw your hand up. I called you out, and hope you like this approach.
Yeah, no, it's terrific. It's great to get an early start. It's great to coordinate with other committees to put more weight behind it. Just, keep in mind that you want to have something, have the ideas surfaced in January and February, have a preliminary list in March, and then in April, vote on the priorities on that list in April. But it
I
looks
think we already
great.
got a good, this is essentially the start, so we may break
Excellent,
a record
excellent.
for earliest budget planning, December that is. But so everybody, I'd like committee members and community, please come back in January for more ideas about what we can do to fund storm mitigation in our area. I am not going to forget Ida, and I am not going to forget the peril that our community is in, and all the good work, and that millions of dollars that could be squandered with counting on daylighting to solve our flooding problems. It's not going to work. I'm telling you, all that money is not going to work. We're not going to get the water cleanly quality standards we want if we just depend on daylighting, because like I said to Tolga, storms are catching up. So we are going to need an integrated, multidisciplinary approach, including more than daylighting. And thinking about the watershed and all the things that contribute to water capture is a good way for us to maximize the investment in daylighting. So that is my 2 cents on our both halves ends of our meeting this evening. Ramdat, do you have any last words?
None at all, but thank you all for joining us. And thank you for both committees for being so engaged with all your questions.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn the meeting for this evening.
All right, all in favor? I want to thank everyone for
I
coming.
second it.
Thank you. And I
Thank
want
you.
to wish everybody a great holiday. If you're continuing your celebration, if you're going to start, a great holiday. Thank you all, city officials, for your generous time with us today. And we definitely have work to do together. So thanks again and have a great evening.
Yes,
Thank
happy
you, Ram.
holidays, everybody.
Great
Yay.
holiday
Good
as
night.
well.
Have a great holiday.
Happy holiday.
So stop.
Okay.